So here I am in Edmonton, Alberta, where some people want to blame immigrants for our problems. But let's consider someone. I'll call them Lisa for the sake of this discussion. A manager working at McDonald's makes around $18.50 an hour. A new employee makes around $16 an hour. But now let's compare that to where the real money is made in Alberta. Consider Canadian Natural Resources Limited, or CNRL. They make around $31 billion per year. The corporate tax rate for that is only 8%. It's the lowest provincial corporate tax rate in all of Canada. The next lowest is 12%. Now, its executive CEO is Murray Edwards. He makes between $12 to $15 million a year, and he is also someone who happens to live in London, England, rather than living in Alberta. Now consider that he is also a billionaire, which would mean that most of his money is generated passively from the stock market rather than generated from his income. So he makes that 12 to 15 million from his being a CEO, an executive, which is an actual job. It would have tasks and duties associated with it. But for every $1 billion in the stock market, approximately around $100 million in profit is created passively, just as a result of that money sitting in the stock market. So someone that works at CNRL as an employee is a part of a process, pulling it out of the ground. Somebody who works at McDonald's, at a farm, there's products that are associated with that job. But for the stock market, it's not necessarily correlated to a real profit from actual production, because anytime the banks, the government gives out loans and so on, that money is just created and often ends up in the stock market. So let's consider that that's actually true, that that's something he's working for. But if he has stocks in the stock market and the government prints in the USA prints off, and it doesn't matter if with regards to their economy in this way is connected completely to ours. If they print off $1 trillion or $2 trillion, go an extra $4 trillion in debt, that money gets dropped right into the stock market and they're just given that profit. It's not because of what they had worked for. It's just that we've determined that if people have money sitting in this place called the stock market, and then if the government decides to arbitrarily print off certain amounts of money because they want to protect the system that they've created, that then they are then given a lot more money as a result. Now, most of the money which is made by the richest people, people like Bezos, people like Musk, is not generated directly from their jobs, in the sense of Musk being a CEO of a company that produces electric cars, the rockets and so on. Most of it is generated through the stock market. Now, if you consider that the money is created very differently, but the money can be spent in very similar ways. So consider that while somebody working on a farm is actually producing a product and making money, somebody who's making money from the stock market is creating money, but they can consume items which are produced by people which are producing things. And the people who are producing things and getting paid that way are competing with people who have this money which is made passively. Think of even $10 million, which is, so think of for Edwards, after taxes, approximate for a year's worth of his actual wages, doesn't include the money he is making off of the investments and so on. So consider with $10 million, you can pay off a luxury property. You could buy several exotic or muscle cars, classic cars. You could buy some art. You could buy an amount of gold so it can sit in your vault. So in doing all of those things, you have one person who's buying up the labor that has been produced from thousands of people. And that money which is created is taxed at a very low rate, if it is taxed at all. So the money is created passively through the stock market, but it consumes products just like money which is made any other way. People will often say that people shouldn't be benefiting, people shouldn't be getting benefits and so on for things that they haven't worked for. But really, the stock market itself is a whole huge mechanism which is largely making money because of money that people haven't worked for. Money that's just given to them, and their entitlement for having that money or gaining that money is just based on the fact that they already have money. So it's like they have money, and therefore that's considered a justification for giving them more money. This money is not given to them because of they're working for it, like someone is flipping burgers. It's created in computers just as a result of typing in new numbers. So, and this system is like created by society. It's something which is socially constructed, and it's considered in 2000, and it's something which is propped up and it's protected. There is some risk involved. Some people lose out, but generally the system as a whole is protected. When the system collapsed and had a lot of problems in 2008, the government printed incredible amounts of money, which went back into that market and which made those people richer than ever. When we had all the problems in 2020, supply disruptions and everything else connected with the pandemic, they printed mass amounts of money. That money mostly ended up in the stock market, made the people who were already incredibly wealthy even more wealthy. Basically, that money was given to them. And whenever the government is printing money, that money is given to them. This is not money they've worked for, like Lisa working at McDonald's, or like a mechanic working at a garage fixing cars. People have a tendency to think of these people as generating their wealth as a result of labor and as a result of being very intelligent people. But most of the money is being given to them by a system that has said, if people have money, we're just going to give them more money. It's basically socialism for the rich. So these same people, in a lot of cases, are fighting against socialism for society in general, while they're receiving most of their profits off of a system which is socialism for the richest people. So socialism being called capitalism. So I would say the problem is not with Lisa working McDonald's, or an immigrant being here, which is helping to build houses or working on farms, people who are actually creating things, or even the person who is given some benefits and some help to some small degree because they've had an accident or have had some kind of social problems, because the amount of money that those people are consuming is a small fraction from the money which is just given to the richest people as a result of this socially constructed system that we've put in place. So both people are receiving money through this system that we have in place, but some people are working for it, and some people are basically just given that money. And in some cases, they are given an amount of money which is associated with the work that they are doing, such as Amazon or Tesla or Edwards with being a CEO of CNRL, but most of the money most of the imbalance that's created is created through investments and created through the stock market. People discuss different ways for us trying to counterbalance this, because anytime more money is put into society, so if you put more products, more supply into society relative to the money that exists, then prices go down. But if you put more money into society relative to the products which exist, then prices go up, because you have more money competing for the amount of resources, whether or not you think of that as tiles at a store, or you're trying to pay for labor to assist you or work for you in different regards. Recognizing that there's a problem here and then trying to work out solutions for that problem is two different issues. You can have 5 different people who can recognize that this is a problem, but will have different possible solutions to this problem. Or you could have somebody in that group that recognizes this as a problem, but they don't think it is possible to do anything about this. It seems to me that the easiest way to deal with this problem, because like the stock market does serve a purpose, even though it can be distorted or not relative to actually what's happening in the economy. So the easiest problem would be some kind of progressive tax on wealth. So right now, most of our taxes come from labor, is taxed on people actually working, actually producing things, and there's very little tax which is generated passively from wealth, even though the amounts of wealth which can be created passively far exceed what people are generally making from labor. So if we have some kind of taxes on capital gains on second homes after certain amounts, because you have to blanket capital gains tax would cause a certain amount of problems and so on. So we need to be looking at Lisa in the store is, when you do the comparison for the amounts of money involved and any 2 individuals, if you consider Lisa working at McDonald's or Edwards being the CEO of CNRL, making 12 to 15 million from being that CEO, which that part is probably even fine. The bigger problem even is that he's probably making more than $100 million a year, which compounds relative to how many billions he has from the stock market. And that all of that money which is injected into the economy, so we have people like Musk, his wealth has gone up hundreds of billions in the last years. And if they leave that mostly in investments, then it goes up exponentially that much faster. So one person with $50 million, and that much more when it's 100 million, 200 million, 300, going up to the billions, can outcompete for resources thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people like Lisa. And I can't at all understand why people would think that Lisa, or somebody working at McDonald's, or somebody working on a construction site, buildings, homes, that somehow their existence, they're pulling out $30 an hour, $40 an hour for like the more higher skilled people. Why that is a problem and that shouldn't exist, whereas people are pulling out multiple millions of dollars, because all of that money correlates to production. So somebody with $1 billion can pull out 100 million. They could leave 50 million in, or even 60 million in their bank, leave it in paper, and spend 40 million. So then the next year they have, if they had $1 billion, 1 billion and 50 million, and they've pulled out 50 million, they're competing for resources and energy to buy gold that's been mined, to hang out in vaults, to build underground bunkers, to build islands where they can hide away and do whatever they want and generally be immune to the laws of the outside world. So this system is socially constructed. I benefit from it, but we need to have some kind of limits, some kind of restrictions, and the fact that it's socially constructed should allow us to consider that it is okay and fair for us to evaluate how this is working, what kind of problems and what kind of benefits there is in society, but what kind of problems, and try to create some kind of balance in society.